Well, hello, everyone. Welcome. This is the Crones Embrace Equity Talk, and we are so happy that you could be here. So we have all of our Crones, and we wanted to do some information first on the International Women's Day and share our screen with you so that we can talk a little bit about equality versus equity and what that means to us and to you, and just have a conversation about that. So we're going to introduce everybody in a minute. My name is Darcelle, and but I would just wanted to talk for 1 second here on the screen that you'll see in the difference between equality and equity in terms of reality and what they say is equality and what we know as equity, and then what we see as liberation. And so as we go through this, we'll be talking about this a little bit more, but I think actually what we want to do is first introduce everybody. So Janice, why don't you start us off?
Okay. I am Janice Chrysler. My service is called Mindful Journey. I'm located in Marmora. I'm an ordained metaphysical minister. I do spiritual coaching as well as meditation facilitator for organizations, workplaces, and I have workshops right in my home and do online work as well. I also am an author of 2 books, Sally's Closet and Make It Happen, and I'm very excited to be here today with my soul sisters.
Awesome. Welcome. Joyce, how about yourself?
Hello, everybody. My name is Joyce. I am a clinical aromatherapist and a registered reflexologist. My clinic is located right here in Marmora. My services, of course, are mainly reflexology and the use and safeties of aromatherapy and essential oils. We use them in the clinic here, and you can always reach out with any questions. I'm happy to be here. I'm a little nervous. I've never really done this before, but I'm happy to be here with my soul sisters, and they all make me feel very grounded. So I appreciate being here to talk today about embracing equity.
Awesome. And Katharine, tell us about yourself.
Hey everybody, I'm Katharine Grace Wagar, and I live here in Marmora. I am a crystal specialist, and I sell, I am Studio Grace. I do a lot of markets in the summertime, the Marmora Market and the Havelock Market, farmers markets, where I sell my jewelry. I am a Wiccan high priestess. I am a Reiki master, and I am a soul sister, and I'm really happy to be here with the girls today.
Love it. And Laurane.
Hello, I'm Laurane Bennett. I identify as her, she. I have 2 businesses, the Point Naturals. I make soaps and body products using pure essential oils, and that can be purchased on my website or at a store here in town. I'm also a shamanic practitioner. So I offer services to people that are particular to the shamanic healing practices. That information can be found on my website as well. And I also do some teaching of workshops, so to teach people how to do shamanic journeys. I'm also a Reiki master and teacher, and I am an oracle card reader specializing in angel cards, and a crystal energy therapist. So I can use crystals and in healing sessions, and also teach people how to integrate crystals into their own practices as well. I'm one of the soul sisters, proud to be one of the soul sisters, and looking forward to our conversation today.
Awesome. Very good. So I'm Darcelle Runciman, and I'm a metaphysical minister as well. And I do weddings, and I do celebration of life. I'm also a Reiki master. My primary business right now is I have a online women's membership, Infinity Collective, and we have all of our business links as well, just to mention, in the chat. So if anybody wants to follow any of these lovely ladies that I get to enjoy spending time with, you can always do so. I'm also a online business manager, and just working to get certified, and can offer businesses help with their planning and structural integrity of their own business moving forward. And I'm excited to be here as well, talking about embracing equity. So let's get right to it. So we'll just going back to our screen that you guys can see. We wanted to talk a little bit about the difference between equity and equality. And I'm sure we're going to mess those words up in this. So let's just get that out right now, because I know I will. But yeah, so basically we want to talk about, equal opportunities and how they're not necessarily enough. So equal isn't always fair. And how this works is, people start from different places. So true inclusion and belonging require equitable action. So when we look at this picture that you see here, this is a great example of the difference between equality, which is here, where everybody gets that box. And so you would suspect that everybody would then be able to see over the fence. But because we all have different needs and different heights and sizes and, abilities and challenges, what equity is all about is actually giving this person on the right, for example, the 2 boxes up so that they can actually see over the fence. The person in the middle gets 1 box because that's all they need to efficiently see over the fence. And then the person on the left here doesn't require a box because they're tall enough to see over the fence. So the difference between equality and equity is about, equality is everybody gets the same, regardless of what's needed or what's right for them. And equity is about everybody getting what they actually need, relevant to their barriers, their circumstances, and the conditions that they're in. So equity is a long-term and sustainable solution, and it's a process for addressing the imbalance in social systems. And why we're talking about it as women is because we want to talk about how, there are lots of places where we have equality, but there's also that need for equity in there. So yeah, so we wanted to open that up to the floor. I'm going to stop my share so that we can just have our conversation and talk with the ladies and sort of talk about, what embracing equity means to all of us, and how it's played a role in our lives, and sort of, how that building of community is important to us. So who wants to jump in?
Well, I'll have to say, when I first saw the theme for this year, I did have to look up the word equity, because the first thing that came to my mind, and I've had other people say this as well, when they think of equity, they think of money, the value in your home, or, this sort of thing. So I'm thinking, well, what are they talking about instead of equality? So I think those, what they put on their website, what you just showed us, plus some other videos they have, really demonstrate it quite well. And I think all of us, well, most of us here, that's older group here, the 3 of us that are a little older, we grew up when we went to work. Equality in the workplace, for example, I think I'm fair to say, at least in this area, it was really just starting, because I was blatantly turned down for a job because of bookkeeping, because I wasn't a man, and it was in a car dealership. And they laughed at me and said, "Why would you work here?" I was doing books. I wasn't anything. I couldn't figure out what the problem would be. I remember going for interviews and being asked, if I was married, did my husband approve of my working for them? How many children did I have? How many was I going to have? Who looked after my kids? How was I going to get to work? What would I do if they were sick? My husband never got asked any of that stuff. So even though I could apply for a job now, and yes, they were by law had to hire me if I was qualified, there was still all that interview process. So there was equality, but not equity, because there wasn't accommodations made, or there were things being asked of me that really I had to look after. It was none of their business how I was going to get to work and who was looking after my children. Having said that, it's nice to see that, especially in some larger places, and hopefully it can be made in smaller ones, is where the equity part comes in, where they do allow for, like if you're having, well, even just maternity leave, we didn't have that. So that's nice to know. There's also that childcare is quite often helped out in a workplace. They have maybe the facilities nearby or in the same building, some of the larger places. So that sort of thing makes it a little easier. And I think just realizing that everybody's coming from a different place, and if there's ways that we can help bring that in. And I hope I don't steal this from Joyce, but I think we both realized it at Women in Wellness at the same time. As we're getting ready to do our little speech at the end, we get up on the stage, and as I'm on the stage and looking around at all the women there, and for those that don't know, it was a wellness, so it's holistic practitioners, we have readers there, intuitive readers and that sort of thing. And I'm thinking, I felt very blessed to think I live in a country and a time when we can come together without fear of persecution and that sort of thing. And I thought of all the ancestors that have made that possible. I also thought of the Lions Club that used to be just men, that now is lionesses are involved with it. And so it's men and women. Then we went to do our speeches at the podium. And the podium itself, being only 5'1", most of them are way too high. You have a microphone that's coming at your forehead instead of your mouth most of the time. And I thought, we're allowed to speak behind this podium now. Joyce and I are both of the shorter stance. And this podium, though, has a step that drops down that we can stand up on and be as tall as, say, if Laurane was standing there and not needing to have that step. So that's a little wee example, but that is equity. Somebody thought that let's make this podium doable for anybody of any height. So those are little things, but they make a big difference if you're the one that needs that. So I'll just end that with me.
Absolutely. Actually, it makes me think of my brother-in-law's sister, who is in a wheelchair, and how hard she fought to make sure that she was being treated equitable, not just equal, right? So not just giving, okay, we, hire somebody with a disability, but she's able to now, have a specific desk for her, like specific, keyboard so that she can effectively work ergonomically, and how important all of those things are, right? And that's when we're talking about equity, to me, that's part of what I see, right? Is that now they've made it so that not only can she work like everybody else can work at a desk if she chooses, but she has the tools and the kind of structure around her that's been, designated so that she can work effectively in a way that makes it comfortable for her. So yeah, kind of neat. Anybody else? What's
Yeah,
go ahead.
I think it goes beyond the physical too. I mean, if you take myself, my own personal experience with non-equity, I had really horrible periods, and I know there's a lot of women that go through that too. Literally, I went through labor once a month for like 30 years. And that was always an issue with my employers, because I really did have to take most months at least a day off. I was literally curled up, throwing up, it was horrible. And eventually I just opened my own business because I was tired of hearing all the rhetoric around that. I was always in trouble for something, and it didn't matter how good an employee you were. Just to take that 1 week off and to have had some kind of equity around that. It wasn't like I didn't make up the time, because I always did. I would work a Saturday, or, it's not like I wasn't trying to be fair to them, but certainly I never got fired for it, but I always felt like I was going to,
Mm.
and
Wow.
it also makes me think of the women who are, who have mental illness or dyslexia or attention deficit disorder, which is more common in women now these days too. I mean, attention deficit disorder, I know my stepson is ADD with hyperactivity, and this boy could not sit long enough to, no matter how brilliant he is, and he is very brilliant and extremely good at everything he's done, he was going through he wanted to be an electrical engineer, but he couldn't sit still for the 5-hour exam. And they did not have a hands-on exam that he could take because he would have aced that. So he never did get his degree. And it's that sort of thing where I think equity has to be built too. It's not just the physical. That's what's right up front for people and the most obvious. But when it comes to the other disabilities or challenges, those things have to be considered too. Certainly in the workplace for women, they have considered childcare. And I know a lot of places have in-house childcare now, which I just think is awesome. And we're not necessarily, you know what, I would still think that on the slide, people are still asked the same questions that Janice got asked during interviews. That still goes on. I hate to say that out loud, but you know, but yeah, if there could be some equity for those who are socioeconomic challenged, or you know.
Yeah, what a powerful example, though, I think, you know, because so growing up, I had endometriosis, and I understand what you're talking about with, you know, the week of just, you know, being sick and not being able to work, and how that affects your work, and how you overcompensate, right, to make up for that time. But with endometriosis just growing rampantly, you know, in the female population, it's something that probably is not discussed. But wouldn't it be wonderful if, you know, in the next generation, you know, you could get time off for that week, you know, whatever, like, and it would be accepted, and it's not, you know, taboo to talk about, you know, kind of thing. It's just, you know, okay, yep, you get a week off. This is, you know, if you're sick, you're sick, right? So, and without question, you know, that would be wonderful.
Yeah.
I like the examples. In my past, I was an employment counselor, and one of the things we discussed, especially with women, was the questions that employers aren't allowed to ask you when you're going into an interview. But not to say, as Janice and Katharine alluded to, is that they will ask. You know, we don't have the interview police there to report, but is helping people that are maybe haven't been in the workforce for a long time, or just going into the workforce, to know how to respond to those situations. So the equity part is, you know, offering tools to be able to overcome maybe some of those biases and things that we just don't know how to answer. So helping each other out with those things. From a spiritual aspect, because I'm not in the workforce anymore, I'm semi-retired, but same with the equity that goes into spirituality is, and especially now that I'm teaching more, is that everyone has a different way of learning. So to be able to, it's not a cookie cutter instruction manual that you give people when you're sharing information with people. And so it is to help them through whatever blockages they have in learning or experiencing something for the first time. So you keep trying it at different angles until that person is comfortable. So, you know, from a spiritual aspect, I think the equity part is just, you know, understanding that we all learn in different ways, and be able to realize that and maybe work with that person so that we can help them to the next steps and being healthy mentally.
Exactly. Yeah. So there was a quote that was on the International Women's Day website that's talked about equality is giving everyone a shoe, but equity is giving everyone a shoe that fits. So that's kind of what we're talking about, right? Is making sure that you know, when you're helping somebody, that it's appropriate to what their needs actually are, as opposed to just like, here you go, you know, now everything is equal, you know, we hire men and women. It's like, well, but that's not enough, right? So you have to look at, like you say, somebody, you know, and Katharine had mentioned, if somebody's dyslexic, you know, like you have to, you know, do what works for them and accommodate that person and work with them as much as possible, right? So very good.
Yeah. No, everything that you all have spoken of today is just right on. And educating is key. I feel that, yeah, if there's inequity, people need to understand that there's all sorts of people that come from all different backgrounds as well. So like for me, it's acknowledging equity by knowing that we all came from a different place. So I'm Middle Eastern. I was born in Lebanon, and I was, from Lebanon, a little family in Lebanon, taken there. And then we traveled and we kind of made our way over here to Canada. And having that is a tool for me, because now it gave me the equity that I needed, because yes, inequity affects many people, but having the tools that I needed, or my mom having those tools for that matter, now grows into me being a stronger woman, now gets passed on to my daughter, knowing the value of equity. And so then therefore would hopefully pass that point. But where we've come from and where we are now have truly shown that the change in that equity is available and being recognized, and very much having the ability to achieve the same goals for everyone. Everyone can achieve those goals because now there is equity.
Right. That's neat. And yeah, in terms of race and things like that, that's interesting, right? Race or different nationalities. It's interesting conversation, because we all think about equality, right? So making it equal for everybody, men, women, and, different nationalities, races, and, genders, and the whole bit. But equity is something that's, I think, it's a challenge to wrap your brain around. Okay, so how does somebody that is of a different nationality that may not even have equality yet get equity, right? So that's those are the types of topics that they're talking about on the website. And Janice had mentioned that there's a few videos there as well, and I found them really good. We didn't want to show them because they're a little bit longer, but definitely go to the website for internationalwomensday.com, which we put in the chat. And you can see some of those videos that are there. They're, around 3-4 minutes long. So short, but just, a little too long for our conversation today, but definitely check them out. So, yeah. So how do you think, why is building a community important to you guys? I know it's important to us. Obviously, we're a community. We've created community with the Soul Sisters, and we love our community. But what does it mean to each of you?
I will jump right in there if nobody else will. Community is your tribe. You need people around you to be mentally attuned and emotionally stable, because we are social creatures, and we tend to forget that when we get cuddled up in, well, for me, it's cuddled up in the studio working way longer than I should. And I'll do that for weeks on end without seeing another soul. And that is so bad for you. Eventually it will catch up to you. Having all my community around me, makes me feel supported. If there's a day I'm feeling off, a problem is not a problem after it's said in words. So it gives you someone I can call any one of you girls or a number of other people in the community and just say, you know what, I'm not feeling right today. And this is bugging me. And so said this, and I don't know how to take that. And what's your take on that? And that sort of thing is really, really important. And to me, that's what community means. It means supporting each other, especially in our businesses, because you can, the girls will all say, they'll share your stuff on Facebook or give you applause when you've had a good day. They'll support you when you're having a bad day. it's really important to help you figure out a business plan or help you get a loan. And that's what's nice about the Paro circles. And I know we haven't discussed that yet in this, but the Paro circles are really, pardon me, good for that. Give you a little bit of a loan if you need, you know. They will support you by buying your stuff, you know. And Laurane will attest to that. I mean, don't we all use her stuff? And would we use anything else? No, not unless we made it ourselves, right? And she's better at it, so why bother, right? But yeah, that's what community means to me. It's the tribe. Yeah, you've got to be social.
Yeah,
I think you said that very well, Katharine, and I think I think like we're all sole entrepreneurs here too, so you can spend so much time in your own head. Sometimes you can't even see how to make things equitable for yourself. Like, you know, you're maybe making, I know I can sometimes make things harder for myself, and then somebody will say, well, why don't you try doing it this way? And I go, oh yeah, okay, that's
Keep it simple,
easier.
stupid.
Yeah, so I think sometimes equity isn't always about waiting for someone else to make it more doable for you. It's you looking at a job or something you go to do. Well, what can I do to make that easier for me? I've now got the equal opportunity. I'm able to be here, but what am I going to need to do so that I can present myself better? So even just the example of, I know I'm short, that's not going to change. So if I got to speak somewhere, make sure that I have a microphone that I can use, or make sure where I'm going to stand is not blocking me, and be okay with saying, you know what, thanks for the podium, but it's coming up to my nose. So I think, you know, people really do need to see me as much as I might want to hide behind something, and just having a voice, because other people aren't trying to be rude or anything. Sometimes they just don't know if they're not, and I could be the same. I just might have not been in that position before, so I'm not thinking of it. So I think, yeah, the community is good for that, and for us to be open to hear those suggestions.
I love what you said too about, you know, making sure that you're doing it for yourself as well, right? Like Joyce with her mom, you know, and just making sure that she did everything that she could to have an equal stand, right? And my example of my, you know, sister-in-law there, you know, making sure that she addressed her needs with the organization that she was working with, right? To make things equitable for her in terms of, you know, dealing with a wheelchair and needing those specific things for her job. So yeah, really good stuff.
I like the community, having a community regardless of and understanding all of our circumstances, understanding where we've all come from, reflecting on what challenges we've had. I always say this to my clients. I always say your vibe attracts your tribe. So keep your vibe very high and very positive, and you will get those that are the same in your circle. I love our circle. I love everything about us, and I love that we have the same mindset and empowering and very, very knowledgeable and love to educate as well. So very happy to be here.
Yeah. Yeah, community is everything. I think it's just you know, it's where we can retreat when needed. I think in some ways it is, right? You know, we can, you know, if we're having a challenge or what have you, you know, we can always talk to each other, or, you know, our tribe, whatever, wherever that is, right? And yeah, we didn't touch on the Paro. So our Soul Sisters originally started through the organization of Paro, and it's a great organization, and we've been together for, oh my gosh, 4 years?
Must be 4 now, yeah.
I think it would be at least 4 years.
And the baby.
Pre-COVID. Yeah. Well, actually, it was that year, 2019. We came together that summer, and we planned our Soul Sisters Tea for women in wellness.
Yes.
And that was the last event in 2020. So,
That's
yeah.
right. Yeah, yeah, that was the very last event. That's true.
Mm,
I think it was,
yeah.
yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's back again. Joyce has it back again this year. It was up and going again.
Back.
Yay!
It's back with much more
Awesome.
happening.
That's right.
So what do you think is one thing that you've learned about equity that you may not have known before? Put everybody on the spot.
Well, for me, it's
Oh,
actually what equity
that's a good
is.
one.
I mean, just to take a look at that word, I'm really glad that that's what they chose this year, because I had no idea. I'd never given that sort of thing any thought before. Equality, absolutely. And that's been very foremost for many, many years for a lot of women. But equity, I mean, it was almost like a novel idea, other than, the money you've got built up in real estate. I didn't realize what equity really was. And I think that it's important that we do give it center stage for a while and make it as important as equality.
I agree with Katharine. I hadn't, like I mentioned at the first, I had to look up the definition because I thought, why are they focusing on finances? I mean, that's important, but, it kind of was taking away from the whole, to me, the meaning of International Women's Day. So I'm too glad they did it, because it did make me look at things a little different. And I guess if we look at it of something of value, maybe equity just means our own worth. What is our equity? What equity do we have in ourselves? We need to give ourselves value. And we're finally at a time when we're not trying to be, sorry guys, I don't mean to but to say that in order to make our way in a business world, that we have to be twice as good as a man to do the same job and to do it the same way. We can be ourselves, whoever we are, do the job, do the work in the community, whatever it is, we can be ourselves and do things our way. So find our own self-worth. Maybe that's what equity should be.
Mm.
I like the conversation around it. I think as human beings, I think we're always, the good in us are trying to include people. So we're in the workplace, for instance, we want our coworkers or the people that work for us to do well. So sometimes without knowing that we're doing it, we do it. But I think the conversation is important in that we realize that there's moments maybe we need to fine tune that a bit and really look at, are we doing this within our own lives, with our friends, with our coworkers, the people that we hang with? Are we leveling the field so that that fence is taken away and that we're included? So, I think even just the conversation is so important. So we can remind ourselves, that we might be missing a few details that are important.
Mhm.
It dawns on me something my father always used to say is it takes a lot of different people to make the world go around. And I always expanded on that in my own growth, that celebrate the differences between people. And I think equity kind of rings on that one too, doesn't it? It's the same chime. It's the same. It takes a million different people to make the world go round, because it needs, the world as a community needs strengths from all different areas. And if we are celebrating the differences and making it possible for everyone to contribute, to me, doesn't that make equity beautiful?
Yeah. It takes a village, I heard sometimes.
That's right. Yeah. I was going to say that, just in embracing the differences, right? That's, that doesn't always, it doesn't just bring equality, but it brings that equitable ability to the forefront, right? Because then we're like, oh, okay, now I see you, right? So it's like, okay, well, what do you need in order for you to be able to achieve this goal or whatever it is, right? Let us help, kind of thing. And I think that's the whole point of why they wanted to do this equity. And I love that they did it as well, because even though I have experienced, challenges being biracial, I don't think it was a thought for me as much as to, well, things are, getting equal, but are they really fair? There's still that gap, that issue that's there. So to really look at that and to make sure that I'm standing up for myself in the right ways, right, when needed, is really important as well. So I love the topic, and I'm glad we talked about it as a group. So
too. I think that what I've learned about it is that equity embraces the ability for a more equal and inclusive future. So that's the biggest thing. So I'm really happy that they did that as the theme this year. It is. I look forward to seeing that embraced in the future, which again goes back to seeing our own women and children and future followers embracing that too. So it's lovely. It's a great idea. Beautiful.
Well, I think on that note, that's a great way to end it. Thanks, Joyce. Yeah. And thanks, ladies, for all of that great conversation. We would love for people to put in comments, about what they think about embracing equity, and to use that hashtag, and to learn more about it on the International Women's Day website, and follow the Soul Sisters, and lots more to come. So thanks again, ladies.
Thanks, Darcelle.
Thank you.
Thank you.